I think Aid for Trade is a key piece of the puzzle, the link between trade and development.
Aid for Trade is an integral part of a solution along with better infrastructure as well as better policies for those smaller and least developed countries. It will close the gap between the two phases of Asia.
Aid for Trade can address several constraints, ranging from a soft and hard infrastructure, policy issues, as well as institutional capacity constraints.
And Aid for Trade is about connecting a lot of different development activities, such as training trade negotiators, building, all the way to building roads or ports, to help these countries benefit better from market opening opportunities.
The Doha Round is about making more trade possible for developing countries. Aid for Trade is about making this trade happen.
Even though Latin American countries have made a lot of efforts to open markets and increase exports through, for example, several means, including the negotiations of important free trade agreements, they still face significant obstacles that are preventing them from taking the advantages of these market access opportunities.
We've known from the Uruguay round that trade, open markets, help trade to actually take place. It was an opportunity, but it didn't necessarily just happen. So market access is important, but it's not sufficient to see trade and development happening. And I believe that what Aid for Trade has done is to bring the two elements together.
We mean moving goods from where they're produced to their destination. So this means improving transport, ports, and rail, for example. In terms of the soft infrastructure, we mean more supporting regulatory frameworks.
The innovative character of the Aid for Trade initiative is that it has established an accountability mechanism between the trade community and the aid community to assess what is happening, what is not happening, and where improvements are needed.
WTO has been given this role of coaching Aid for Trade globally, together with donors, recipients, bilateral donors, multilateral donors, regional development banks, which is why we have convened a rather large crowd for this event.
Aid for Trade flows have grown annually by 10% in real terms. In 2007, they reached 25 billion, and that's an increase of 4 billion over the baseline.
In 2007 and 2008, we did about $3.9 billion worth of lending and credits to low-income countries alone. That was for things like trade facilitation, for programs to improve the competitiveness of the economies, to help with investments in policies and regulations. In addition, we did another $6 billion worth of lending in 2007 and in 2008 to middle-income countries.
We need a regional approach to Aid for Trade in the Asia-Pacific to supplement national strategy. And the core components of that are really infrastructure investment to connect countries so that goods can pass quicker and faster across borders. But we also need transit arrangements to ensure that countries can actually pass through the goods faster. And another aspect of this is trade finance, which allows the cost of doing business to be reduced substantially. In Asia, we have the Greater Mekong Sub-Region Program, which is a flagship project that enables us to bring these three elements together in an integrated manner.
The Mesoamerican initiative objective is to enhance integration among Mesoamerican countries by improving physical infrastructure. One of the main elements or components of these initiatives is the Pacific Corridor Highway, which basically transits, or through this corridor, we have transited 95% of trade happening among these countries.
The North-South Corridor project aims to improve both transport infrastructure. Again, we mean roads, rail, border posts, and ports, as well as to improve some of the regulatory framework for trade as well as transport.
The initiative has shown that donors are providing more aid, and partner countries are assessing that this aid is provided in a better way, meaning that it is aligned around their priorities, that donors are harmonizing the way in which they give their aid, and that also southern partners are aligning with what is being done.
Very evident is the impact that this financial crisis and economic crisis is having in the developing world. Massive adjustments taking place, massive fall off in employment. And I think that more than ever now, the international community needs to keep its commitments in place.
Aid for trade is very important. It was important before the crisis, but after the crisis it has become urgent.
I think that the financial crisis means that there's a lot of pressure on governments to look at their domestic situation.
Investments that are needed for growth tomorrow tend to get put off. And that's the role of Aid for Trade. If Aid for Trade can be increased in this environment, it will help countries position themselves to grow once economic recovery begins.
In order to make the Aid for Trade agenda more successful, we need country and political leadership. We also need to enhance resources. More importantly, we need to involve the private sector and strengthening our coordination.
Aid for Trade is very, very important at this point in time, just because of the fall-off. Secondly, we need that donors keep their promises. And thirdly, I think countries need to be looking now at those soft spots in their economy, tackling those things so that when the crisis is over, they will be better able to actually play a more engaged role in trade and take better advantage.
If developing countries invest now to lower the costs of trading and getting goods to ships quicker, they can position themselves to grow more rapidly and create jobs that will come with that.
On the short term, Aid for Trade gives a boost to the economy. But on the longer term, we need to connect this agenda up to the wider development agenda. And as the OECD is saying, we need to aim for a safer, cleaner and fairer world economy.